Welcome everyone to this FBA Fitness Business Alliance webinar. My name is Andre Adams. I'll be speaking on behalf of NASM, and we've got some really cool things that are going to help you guys strategize and take your fitness, whether it's personal training or a gym, take that business to the next level. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Today, we're going to be speaking specifically about revolutionizing personal training revenue, right? We're going to talk about that synergistic approach on how we can leverage many different facets to help really scale and drive business. Little note on myself. Again, my name is Andre Adams. You may recognize me from the NASM Peak Physique podcast as the host. I'm also an IFBB Pro Olympian physique athlete and NASM Master Trainer, contest prep coach, and honestly, just a lifelong fitness enthusiast. So I'm happy to be here with you guys today to break down some of these concepts. In fact, I'm sitting in my Snap Fitness Kenosha office today. So I'm going to share some insights of how we've been able to triple our revenue and our member base and then scale and really just branch out into many different avenues and streams of revenue. Our learning objectives for today are learning how to scale your PT or gym brand by leveraging those different streams of revenue, adding value through various mechanisms and identifying different types of personas that you may encounter. And then ultimately, how can we get down into their hot buttons, client results, and then drive retention, right? So lowering attrition, be it PT clients or gym members. Number 3, we're going to learn about optimizing personal training sales processes and strategies. And then lastly, discovering how to use transformation contests to help boost client motivation and adherence, drive sales, and increase your brand awareness. Let's dive on in here. So we're going to learn how to leverage various tools and streams of revenue. So I'm going to break this down on the next slide, and we'll take a kind of high-level picture. And then as we go through subsequent slides, we'll start to really zoom in on each of these different categories. And these are just a few, right? This is not a end-all be-all list by any means, but these are some of the top things that have helped us kind of scale our business specifically through the gym, and then complementary services or products, if you will, right? If we start at the top, we've got your basics, right? You've got gym members, if you're a gym owner or you're a personal trainer. Obviously, the amount of personal training clients and sales you have is directly proportional to the amount of gym members you have. So that's always a plus. The in-body scanner, there's many different types and modalities of body composition scans, but I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on the in-body scanner specifically to teach you guys how that can be one of your biggest tools to help drive all these other complementary sales, right? And if you just take a step back and think about the business as a whole, there's many different ways to scale the business, but if you're a gym owner or a personal trainer, you have a finite amount of capacity, right? So in a given week or a given month, let's say you're a personal trainer and your capacity is 30 appointments per week. Well, once you hit that 30, how are you going to scale from there? So one lever you could pull is price, right? You could increase your price depending on the demographic. Are they willing to pay a higher price, which is ultimately going to help scale your top line revenue? Or maybe a better approach would be to start to widen out. So instead of growing vertically, we can now think about growing horizontally and saying, all right, well, I've got my 30 clients, and what other complementary services or products could I potentially give to these clients that's going to add value to them, and it's something that they might be interested in purchasing, right? And ultimately driving a better result. So those are things that we're going to talk about, how these are all interconnected, personal training, obviously, and then different types of amenities, whether you're a trainer, gym owner, etc. There's different things that you might want to consider utilizing, right? So for us, we have an infrared sauna on site. You could do a cold plunge, do some contrast therapy there, vending sales, all these different things that can start to really just build and, again, widen out your revenue streams. So there's going to be, and in fact, we'll get into maybe some Q&A at the end of this episode, but I'm sure there's going to be questions. Well, I don't have access to an infrared sauna or an in-body scanner. So I'll give you some different tools and ideas where you can start to build your network, maybe leverage some, different relationships or affiliate, if supplements, for instance, you could do some online affiliate codes with partners where you're still getting some commissions, but you're still offering that one-stop shop for your specific clients and building some long-term relationships there. Number 5, supplements. Again, if you are in a position like us, we were fortunate enough to have a vacant building next to our gym. And right away, my mind went to, wow, if we could leverage that and have our own supplement and nutrition store, meal prep store, where we can do nutrition consults and offer all of that side of it, how beautiful could that be, right? It ties perfectly into the gym. You get lead gen coming in through the nutrition store. Maybe they're just there to buy some multivitamins or some protein, but that's also lead gen back to the gym and vice versa, right? So if you're not in that position, you could look at partnering with a different supplement company or doing some online e-commerce type of affiliate programs. And then number 6 is a big one. So for all you personal trainers out there, if I think back to the beginning when I started personal training 15 to 20 years ago, in the beginning, you're like, yes, give me all the clients. I want to, maximize my schedule. I want to fill every time slot I have. And then over time, what happens is, again, we come back to that finite amount of hours you have, and you risk burning out is what happens. So you also are locked down to a physical location, right? So 15 to 20 years ago, online work wasn't as popular. But now, 2024, it's a lot easier to start to do some kind of hybrid approach where you're doing maybe 50% of your work in person, direct, and then the other 50% might be a bit more residual or online work. That frees up 50% of your time to be able to travel and still get your work done. And it's also a bit more scalable, right? So definitely you want to talk about the online coaching, nutrition, and training programs as another means of driving sales and also just offering better results for your clients, right? Better client outcomes. Let's go to the next slide here. And we're going to pause here. This is a big step. So when I think about that initial conversation, right? A member walks into the gym, or maybe somebody reaches out through an email to inquire about your personal training services. The first thing I do is I pause and I start to identify the type of persona, right? Back in my manufacturing and marketing days, it was more about looking at the 3 different types of customers, right? Where you had different types of consumers, maybe one's financially driven, maybe one's an operator or a technical buyer. But in this case, when we're talking about fitness, I like to ID the persona, and you'll see 4 different buckets we're going to break out in subsequent slides. But I start with these 3 thoughts, right? Identify the persona. Let's discover any past barriers of success, right? Things that maybe challenged them, obstacles that prevented them from getting the outcomes they were trying to achieve. And then based off of what we learned through that discovery process, I'm now going to start catering that messaging towards their specific hot buttons, right? We want to push those hot buttons, see how we can add the most amount of value. And you got to think about, what is your competition adding to the same clientele, right? So you have to get a little bit more strategic when you're dealing with people and really focus on learning their specific hot buttons, building relationships. Go to the next slide here. And diving into those 4 types of personas. The very first one I think about, we use this model here at Snap Fitness. And one of the first things I look for are fitness newbies. Those are some of your low-hanging fruit, right? Those are people that are new to fitness, maybe not so experienced in the gym, and they need a lot more support in the beginning, especially, right? So a lot of different tools, from personal training to just an onboarding to make them feel welcome and make them feel inclusive in that gym environment, because it can be intimidating, right? And now if you're offering these multiple services, these are things that, again, you don't want to overwhelm them, but you might be able to leverage some of this. So how could that conversation go, right? I would start by engaging them, asking them some open-ended discovery questions, making them feel welcome, and then talk about their fitness journey, right? What are their biggest goals, hot buttons? And one thing I practice with members is, and this will help you later on when you're starting to recommend complementary services, I start to listen for, what things they're struggling with, but it's more of like reactive listening. So not just like empathetic or active listening where it's the right? But we're actually listening and repeating those things back to them. So I might reframe something a client told me, right? Well, you had a gym membership a year ago, but you struggled to stay on track, and, start to listen to the reasons that they struggled and reframe that back to them. It's going to help build some rapport. And then again, just focusing on giving the fitness newbies as much guidance and support as you can, especially in those first 30 days. Let's move on to the next type of persona, and we'll tie all these together at the end. But one level up from fitness newbies would be your routine seekers, right? They're going to be a little bit more experienced. They kind of know their way around the gym. Maybe they don't need quite as much support, but things that they struggle with is building long-term successful habits and routines, right? So they might know enough to get started, but they don't really have the motivation to stick to it, or they don't understand how to build healthy habits and long-term routines. So for them, things like setting goals, right? Very specific goals with a timeline. Some of the barriers to overcome with these routine seekers would be things like sticking to the plan, right? Oftentimes these type of personas want the quick fix solution, right? If I come in and I kill it in the gym, I hire a personal trainer for 2 weeks, then I should be in good shape, right? But the reality is we need to set these people up for long-term success. So they need to have a little bit more engagement and motivation along the way. And we're going to go up one more level to the next slide here. So after routine seekers, you get the motivates me more, right? So now motivate me more. If you look on the left, we've got definitely more comfort and confidence in the gym. They know their way around the gym pretty well. They got a basic understanding of nutrition, not quite as much support needed, but how can we inspire them and keep them motivated, right? A lot of these individuals might go through some seasonality where they're doing great at, summertime, wintertime comes around and they start to fall off their habits and routines and they lose motivation. So for those individuals, we're going to look at ways to proactively keep them inspired. Maybe it's a rewards program, maybe it's some kind of challenge like transformation contest, things like this that'll keep them excited, keep them getting in the club. And some of the tools that we'll be able to use that will define are going to be your in-bodies, your personal training. You could even do challenges among your different personal trainers in your club and so forth. And after motivate me more, we've got one more group of personas, and these are kind of the elites, right? These are the next levelers. So if I'm in a gym working out, I'm clearly, you know what you're doing, right? You know your way around the gym. You don't really lack motivation either, but you might need let's call it a little bit of guidance, right? To get you to that next level, right? We've got some really big goals that you're trying to tackle. These could be your competitors, your CrossFitters, your people that are just lifelong fitness enthusiasts that are looking to get 1% better. So for these ones, again, personal training could still be a good tool, but if you're offering those complementary services and things like your in-body scans, supplementation, nutrition guidance, online coaching, all of these different types of tools can be applied to someone like a next leveler, right? These are the ones, if we think about that marketing bell curve, right? You've got kind of the people that are, ancient, and then you've got the people in the middle that we'll call it the 80 to 90% in the middle. That's the masses, right? That's the general gym population. And then you've got these early adopters, right? We call them influencers today. So these next levelers, a lot of times might be your influencers, your competitors, your early adopters. People around them ask them for advice when it comes to getting in shape, right? So these are people that can, you can go an extra mile and maybe reward or recognize them a little extra in the club. Ask them to participate in some of your challenges and things like this. But the next levelers can be a really great group to tap into for some of your complimentary services. We're going to progress forward here and do a quick refresh on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So for those of you that aren't familiar with it, when you walk through the hierarchy of needs, you start to cover some of these very foundational steps, right? So when we think about physiological, well, that's going to be things like food and water and shelter, right? Safety. But once you've got those things kind of under control, right, you start to shift your focus onto some social aspects, maybe some esteem. And then as you continue to work your way up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you get into other things like cognitive, aesthetic, and then the top levels, which are where most of us are aspiring to go, is really self-actualization, really just fulfilling your potential and giving yourself that purpose-driven goal, and then transcendence, right? So that's kind of the hierarchy. I like to always kind of reset, reframe, and then think about how can I apply this to an individual based on what level they might be coming into our gym or our fitness program. If you're in any other form of sales, this is still good information for you guys to understand. I'm going to go forward a slide here and really think about applying those hierarchy of needs strategies to each of these different types of personas, and then what tools might be most appropriate for these individuals. Let's start all the way at the left. If I start with the fitness newbies, right, they're very new to all of this. So obviously for them to be paying for personal training or gym memberships or supplements, they've got at home, they've got to have some basic things covered, right? They've got their physiological needs, their safety, and they might be more focused on like belongingness, esteem, right? So they're trying to build these kind of foundational elements of that hierarchy. And that's all the more reason that you need to make them feel encouraged and welcome and supported, safe at your club, whether it's through personal training or just, as a gym owner. Some of the tools you might use to reach the fitness newbies could be free exercise technique sessions. In subsequent slides, I'm going to break down how you can actually leverage that on a weekly basis to drive new leads and incremental personal training sales. Personal training for fitness newbies is going to be gold, right? Exercise technique is more, hey, this week we're going to do a 30-minute demo. I'm going to teach you guys how to do a barbell back squat, right? It's open for any gym members. You could even open that up to the public if you're trying to get incremental leads and foot traffic into the gym. And most of those clients, a good percentage of them, will eventually convert into personal training clients. So this is a foundational technique that we like to employ. Nutrition guidance for the fitness newbies, they don't know where to start, remember. So don't overwhelm them with too much information. But if you can give them some personal training, stay within your scope of practice and give them some general nutrition guidelines, that's going to go a long way, right? And once they start to build those habits and routines, they're eventually going to progress into the routine seekers and the motivate me more. Supplementation guidance kind of goes hand in hand with personal training and nutrition. And then for them, establishing some very basic but specific goals, right? So maybe not, I want to lose weight, but hey, based on this in-body scan, I need to lose 10 pounds and I'm going to do that in 8 weeks, right? And then you start to break down the diet and things that are associated with that. So in-body scan really could be applied to any person that's throughout this journey, whether it's a fitness newbie or a next leveler. It's going to add value in different ways to each of these categories. If we move up to the routine seekers, they've got a lot of those basics covered, but they might be somewhere in the middle of the hierarchy of needs. Tools are going to look a lot like the fitness newbies, but you might want to consider adding things like some journey programs, right? So member journey, some rewards programs, and then, different ways to just help reinforce and establish those routines, right? So theirs is a little bit more about behavior change than it is about knowing what to do. Once you've got those healthy habits and routines in place, that's going to shift them into that motivates me more category. Right now, from a hierarchy of needs standpoint, they're starting to get into more of the cognitive and aesthetics and things like this, right? They've got all those those fundamental building blocks covered already. And again, their tools, some overlap there, but things that might help your motivates me more category, the social aspect, right? So if you think about group training classes, boot camp classes, still some one-on-one PT sprinkled in there, all these things can help really engage or motivates me more, keep them coming at recurring, like a normal cadence, and just getting them inspired to continue to achieve their goals. The fitness challenges are also great for this group, and the in-body scans as well, because they've got some very specific outcomes that they're trying to achieve, and that in itself is going to help motivate them. And then that brings us to our next levelers. They're on that self-actualization and kind of that transcendence portion of that hierarchy. So for the next levelers, you don't really need to worry too much about that hierarchy. However, some of the tools that you use might be a little bit different. You can still offer some personal training. This might help them get to their very, very specific goals. Things like the in-body scan, when you break that down and they see specific areas that they're trying to improve, this is great, right? They're going to be able to take that information, put together a plan with or without your guidance, and be able to act upon it and execute it. So having the more frequent in-body scans is going to help keep them motivated, on track, and achieving their goals. And then online coaching can be another great tool for your next levelers. And the reason why is for them, it's more about accountability and seeing the results, right? You'll hear me say this multiple times, but what gets measured gets done. So once you start tracking your progress and your pace against the plan as a next leveler, that's going to help you achieve those big outcomes that you're after. Let's go to the next slide here. I'm going to spend some time talking about free workshops. And most business owners and personal trainers alike always freak out when I say free. Yes, we mean free, right? We mean adding value without charging, because here's the thing is when you add value to people, first and foremost, you build relationships, you build rapport, and it's also going to help, just it's human psychology, right? They're going to want to reciprocate some of that value back in some form or fashion. Maybe it's not purchasing any of your products or services, but maybe it's telling a friend who comes and purchase some products and services, right? So again, it's building rapport, and it's also a great lead gen tool. So if we walk through some of the bullet points here, what I mean by that is hosting monthly free workshops. These could be workshops, these could be seminars. These are things that just help get the word out about your services. And one thing that I highly recommend too is building up your network with other health and fitness professionals in your area. For us, for example, we've got medical partners, we've got chiropractic and massage partners, we've got therapeutic partners, et cetera. The list goes on. And whenever we do a lot of these events, we'll bring in some of the experts. Each of us might speak or offer our services up. We might have some promotional material. And one thing that you can do now that you've got the people in your club, right? So if I do a free workshop and I have 30 people show up, I'm teaching them information for free, educating them about health and fitness or nutrition. Now that we've got the people in the club, now you can start to offer your other incentives. Maybe you've got special packages for personal training, group training, supplements, memberships at the gym, right? Maybe you're waiving the enrollment fees. Online coaching is another big one, right? Maybe the first month is free. But whatever you do, one way to leverage that is to make that time sensitive. If you get into the habit of doing these free workshops too often, what happens is no one's ever going to pay for your services, right? They're just going to wait for the free workshops and the free seminars. So you want to have a certain cadence that works well for your business, where you're increasing lead gen and brand awareness, you're getting people in the club, but not so much that you oversaturate it where it's difficult to make a sale. So you can do that. And then if you're offering any of these follow-up incentives, let's say anyone that attended the workshop is going to get incentives on all these complimentary services. You've got to put a timeline to that, right? So it has to be time sensitive. Maybe it's for 7 to 14 days following your event. But that way it keeps people engaged and hopefully helps drive and boost up your sales. Just to recap benefits before we move on, those free workshops, it's a great lead gen tool, valuable cross marketing with some of your other fitness professionals. It helps build rapport and what we call the loyalty circle, which I'll actually map out at the end of this presentation. Most importantly, it gets people into the club, or if you're a nutrition store owner, it gets people into your store. And I love the fact that it establishes you as the subject matter expert. So if you think about being the authority on that particular subject, people are now looking to you for your advice, and you're planting those seeds. They might not come back today, but it might be 1, 2, 3, 6 months down the road. They'll remember that value that you gave to them. And when they have questions about their fitness, they're going to come seek you out. So definitely recommend offering the free workshops as a major lead gen and revenue growth tool. After free workshops, we've got in-body scans. Again, one of my favorite tools to use. We've actually got an InBody 570 here. You can get a much cheaper model like the InBody 270 that doesn't go quite as deep into some of the variables, but ways that you can leverage something like an InBody, and it could be really any brand, right? We just happen to use this one. You could offer these as paid services. So if you're a gym owner or you're a personal trainer, you could say, all right, we're going to do InBody scans for $20 per scan. And then leverage those for free promos too. So let's say you've got a challenge, and anyone that signs up for your challenge might get a free InBody scan to kick off their fitness journey. right? Maybe it's any new gym member that signs up gets a free InBody scan to kick off their fitness journey. So you can get creative and structure these however you want. But again, the biggest thing that we're really trying to drive home here with the InBody is, you see highlighted number 3, we've got identify pain points and offer painkillers. So when we think back to that kind of sales funnel and that sales process, we've got our prospects. Those prospects turn into leads. We get those leads in our club. And now we do something like an InBody scan or a free workshop. Well, when we identify their pain points, that's like the easiest low-hanging fruit to now convert them into a fitness service that aligns with their pain points, right? Their hot buttons. That could lead you to direct supplement sales. It could lead you directly into prescribing or offering a personal training package, online nutrition coaching, etc. So the InBody scans, and if you don't have an InBody scanner, you can always go to InBodyUSA.com and go to InBody Locator and find a test station near you. However, one thing that I recommend is just having some portable scanners, or you can go old school. Don't be afraid to do a caliper pinch test. The net result, right, the effect is really the same, is that you're teaching the client something about their body and you're offering a solution, and now you've got their engagement, right? And that's something that's recurring. It's not going to be a one and done. Maybe you've got a medical partner that also does lab work, blood work. And when you pair that with an InBody, well, that's your full roadmap to this client's total health and fitness goals. And now you can start to align all of your services to the things that they're struggling with. So it gives that client a very tangible goal, right? It's tangible data that they can hold, they can see, they can touch it, and they've got a much clearer picture of where to go next with their goal. Let's move on to an example. So now that I've taught you about how to leverage an InBody, let's do a live example of how to walk through that conversation. So here's a random client. We're going to call her Jane Doe, pretty average gym member. And when we do an InBody scan, I like to start by breaking things down and just working my way down from the top to the bottom and hopefully teach them something new that they didn't know about their body, right? So if we start total at the top, we've got 135.4 pounds for that day, which is broken down into 4 components. You've got body fat mass in pounds, dry lean mass, and then we've got total body water, which is further broken down into intra and extracellular water. Next, we look at the muscle to fat analysis. So I might teach them a thing or two here and pause and say, hey, look, your muscle to fat ratio is making a C shape right now. This means that you're suboptimal in skeletal muscle and you're a little bit too high in body fat and body weight, right? So the first thing we want to do is get those numbers into alignment over the next 6 to 8 weeks. And then once we get them into alignment, we want to continue to build muscle, recomp, burn fat, and then ultimately form a D shape, right? So these are things that really stand out to most people when we get to this part. So right away, I need to build muscle. Well, that might mean that you need more protein in your diet, right? Or you need to lift weights a little bit more frequently throughout the week, right? Then I need to burn fat. Well, I might need to do more cardiovascular exercise. I might need someone to guide me on nutrition so that I'm at a caloric deficit. Maybe I need supplementation that's going to help convert more food and fat into fuel. So these are your golden opportunities to start to add value back to this client. Continuing to walk down this, BMI looks normal and healthy, but percent body fat's elevated, right? It's hinging on obesity at this point, which is something, 70+% of America struggles with. So again, this is going to be a really good tool to make this a tangible thing that they can see. You want to identify asymmetries. So maybe they've got a really dominant right or left arm, right or left leg. And then I always pause and teach them about visceral fat, right? So the internal body fat that wraps around the organs around the belly, right? For 2 things, right? One is obviously for aesthetic goals. We all want to have a nice flat stomach and be in shape. We want to feel comfortable in our swimsuits in the summertime. But then the other is really just an overall health goal, right? When visceral fat is too high, it can lead to chronic disease like diabetes, heart disease, and other cardiovascular issues. So you teach them something about ultimately their health, but also their short-term physique goals. And this is going to help give them some context before you have that conversation where you're recommending any kind of supplement or PT. right? And then I always leave them with that. If you look at the bottom right side with the directional trend arrows, right? Body weight in this particular instance needs to come down over time. Directionally, we want to see skeletal muscle trending up, and we want to see percent body fat trending down over time. This individual was actually pretty well hydrated, so not too inflamed and not too dry or anything like this. So no action needed on the water. But now she's got a goal, right? And if I look at that goal, it says she needs to lose 18.3 pounds of body fat. Sounds overwhelming. And she needs to increase her amount of skeletal lean muscle 9.3 pounds. Now, this sounds like a mountain to some people, right? That seems like a lot of things that need to happen in a short amount of time. So what I do, my strategy is to ask open-ended questions. Well, how do you feel about these results? And based on this data, what are your biggest goals, right? You want to make them think critically about what outcomes they want to achieve now that they're aware of how, what's going on in the body. And again, if you're in a position where you can leverage blood work with this, highly recommend it, because you've got this. And I guarantee you, if I did some blood labs on this individual, things like the lipids and cholesterol might be out of whack, right? The hemoglobin A1C, the blood sugars and glucose might be out of whack. And these are now you're painting a picture, right? We need to optimize this individual's health. They really need our help. So things that you could consider recommending, staying within your scope, could be personal training. This is going to help correct muscle imbalances. We're going to take this individual from, 80% muscle mass to hopefully over 100. So that's an easy one that most people would definitely be interested in. We could recommend some nutrition coaching for weight loss and muscle gain. So just, maybe it's online coaching to do a recomp and teach them how to eat and establish those healthy behaviors. And then, of course, if you have access to on-site supplementation, or if you're in any sort of affiliate program online, this is your low-hanging fruit. So right away, I would start by optimizing post-workout nutrition, right? This individual needs a whey protein isolate to increase muscle protein synthesis, boost recovery, and build muscle. The more skeletal muscle we build, the higher their basal metabolic rate. Therefore, the more calories they're burning at rest, right? That's going to start this recomp process. And at the same time, since this person struggles with high percent body fat mass, we would also want to recommend maybe some natural fat burners, right? We might have some CLA to inhibit fat storage, some L-carnitine to help convert more foods and fats into fuel, maybe a B complex, or just a regular over-the-counter fat burner. Any of these things could be tools that might be appropriate for that individual. And again, you could leverage some time sensitivity here too. Within, if they make that purchase within the next week or so, maybe you package all these things together at a very special price, and it's going to help them achieve their goals faster, which is very important to most individuals. And it might also help them save some money. And then for you, it's going to help set you up for long-term success and recurring in bodies and recurring supplement sales and things like this with this individual. So I always recommend, before you leave that conversation, try to book their next in-body appointment or PT consult. So maybe it's 2 weeks out, maybe it's 6 weeks out, but you want to get a couple other dates on the calendar, and that'll help, right? When we think back to those different personas, whether it's a newbie, a motivate me more, and next leveler, right? Just keeping this individual on track and measuring your pace against the plan is going to help them continue to stay engaged and push the intensity to get the results. So let's go to the next slide. I apologize in advance if this looks like, in fact, I think we're missing a little bit of the interconnected lines here, but that's okay. We're going to talk through how these things connect. If we think about starting at the top left with our free workshops, those could be seminars, open technique sessions where you invite people to come learn about proper form and execution on an exercise, or it could be a nutrition consult. We do those at our nutrition store for free. And I like to start there, right? We're adding free value to the individuals. Now, from there, that could translate directly into a gym membership, PT sales, or you could have some action selling strategy that, every time I do a nutrition consult, my goal is to get them booked on an in-body scan, right? And maybe I even throw that in-body scan in for free. So those are usually the three outcomes that will happen with those free workshops: PT sales, membership, or in-body scan. Now, let's go down the path of memberships first. So if I'm able to get someone excited, right? You want to bring some enthusiasm to them, get them excited and motivated about starting their fitness goals. As a gym member, now there's other downstream revenue that we could tap into, right? That gym member might be interested in some contrast therapy. Maybe it's infrared sauna and cold plunge. Maybe it's a tanning package, right? It could be massage if you offer that on site. So you can see how this one member is now broadened out, and now they might be doing sauna, cold plunge, and tanning packages. From that member journey, it can now go into an in-body scan, right? They want to measure their progress. Now, as we just talked about with the in-body, what does that set you up for? Well, the in-body could actually convert into online coaching. It could convert into supplement sales. It could convert into PT sales, right? So you can see how right away this one client can start to really broaden out. And instead of just, a $30 gym membership a month, now they're getting all these complementary services and products that are helping them achieve their goals faster, getting them more motivated and excited, lowering your attrition as a trainer or a coach or a gym member, gym owner. And most importantly, at the bottom, if you think about how can we develop this loyalty circle? Well, you just help someone save money, you help someone achieve their goals faster, and you taught them something new about their body, right? They're going to tell a friend about that. And in a bit, we'll talk more about transformation challenges, but when you have things like transformation challenges going on, you can feature some of your clients or members. Maybe you pick a member of the month, right? This could be activity based. So if I think about a good way to drive sales and recognize some of those next levelers, let's say that we're tracking swipes at the gym per month, and whoever has the most swipes this month is going to be our featured member of the month. Or maybe whoever has the most PT appointments in a month could be a featured PT client, right? You might want to compensate them with something. Maybe it's some free gym swag. Maybe it's a supplement stack or a free personal training session. But these are things that other people see that could inspire and motivate them. They're seeing their journey, they're seeing their results, and then they want to know what they're doing to get those results, right? Well, hey, I'm personal training with Andre, and also I started taking protein, right? I'm doing some online nutrition coaching, which is keeping my weight loss and my body fat coming down each week. We've been measuring our progress every 2 to 4 weeks, et cetera. So really telling those stories, sharing those with their friends is going to establish that loyalty circle. And then the whole process starts over again, right? So maybe at the next free workshop you have next month, they told a friend and they brought that friend back with them, and the process starts again. So that's a little bit on the downstream revenue models, where again, it starts with adding value and then just trying to connect the dots of let's think less about growing vertically all the time and increasing our member count, increasing our PT client count, and let's think about broadening out that funnel by adding in other complementary services and products, and hopefully helping this individual get the best possible results. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to touch briefly on transformation challenges. So again, just really hosting regular challenges. This could be in club or online. And I like to do a combination of measuring the outcomes based on two things. One is activity, and the other is results based. So again, you could use any form of body composition scan of your choice. I like to use my in-body. And then we also might say, all right, over this 8-week challenge, these 3 individuals were the most active in sharing their story and inspiring others, right? That's what it's really all about, is trying to inspire others to take action and take control of their fitness. That's going to always help bring more incremental leads and business back to your club. So include your personal trainers and all of their clients. You can maybe have a fun, group challenge of trainer A versus trainer B, and they've got all their clients, and you could have a little mini team prize. I like to incentivize those with supplement stacks, free personal training session, et cetera, for the winners. And then for the entries too, we do like to get them kicked off. Maybe you give them one extra PT session and a free in-body scan Maybe it's 20% off of a supplement stack that's going to be conducive to their goals during this transformation challenge. So these are good ways to help drive those sales. And then I like to make the entry itself free and open to the public. It's very intentional. So if I'm here at Snap Fitness Kenosha, I don't want just Snap Fitness Kenosha members to be able to participate. I want anyone at any gym or anywhere. This could be remote. They don't even have to be in this city, right? If we're doing an online challenge, this could be worldwide. So anyone can enter your challenge. Always going to help increase brand awareness. And again, for locals that maybe are near you but don't attend your gym and don't use your PT services, these are great ways to get them into your club. And we like to weight that score again, partially on the physical transformation and then also on their social media engagement to inspire others. And then always focus on compensating the winners very well and share their stories. I like doing the before and after. I like talking about things that they struggled with, really telling those stories to inspire others. And then we're also going to talk about the tools and mechanisms that they used to achieve the outcome for that transformation. These are going to be your spokespeople, right? This is, instead of paying a marketing agency, you can literally use your trainers, your clients with real results and just tell their stories. And they'll be excited to tell their stories. So that is your marketing. And one thing I'll note there is just, I'll leave you with this. Everything changes when you're keeping score. When you make it a game, right? What gets measured gets done. So I like to use this analogy. If you've ever driven past a park and you see a bunch of kids outside and they're just kind of messing around playing basketball and they're taking these crazy half-court shots and horsing around, you can always tell when they're keeping score or not. As soon as they start keeping score, what happens? The shot selection gets better, the intensity increases, right? And they're working better together as a team. So again, when you start keeping score and start measuring your pace against progress, you're always going to see better results. So when you can help share that and exude that with your clientele and then give them the tools and resources they need to, help improve their score, it's always going to be a win-win. Let's summarize here. Moving on to our last slide. We've got, optimizing PT sales process and strategies by identifying the personas. Always start there so that you aren't wasting your time talking about the wrong things. If someone walks in your club and they're only interested in personal training and cardio, but maybe you spend all this time talking about the new free weight section you have, it might be a buzz killer. So make sure that you are thinking about what that person actually wants and needs for their specific goals. Number two, utilizing synergistic streams of revenue. So however you can start to build that out and really scale your business, laterally, thinking about things like supplements, in-body scans, free workshops, exercise technique sessions. You could do some infrared sauna to cold plunge, contrast therapy. Anything that you could really think of that ties into the realm of health and fitness, you could use as an additional stream of revenue, be it yourself in club, online, or through partner brands. Number three, host frequent transformation contests. This is going to boost client adherence. It's going to help drive incremental sales. And ultimately, it's going to increase your brand awareness. And the number four, all of these strategies, when put together, will help increase client retention, reduce attrition, and improve your net growth, which is really what it's all about. When we can find a scenario where everyone eats, everyone wins, right? If you're the gym owner, you're the personal trainer, you're the client, the consumer, you're the supplement company, right? When everyone wins, that's going to be a great scenario. So look for those win-win opportunities to help drive more sales and help grow your brand. Hey guys, we are going to transition now into a bit of Q&A. We had a few questions come in, and these are probably some of the most frequently asked questions that we get. Let's go ahead and start with number one. How do you start a conversation with a new member without coming off like a cheesy car salesman? That's a good question, right? And anything we're doing, I don't care if we're selling personal training packages, we're trying to hire, sign up a new gym member or any of these things. The key for me has always been don't sell, right? You want to add value. You want to build genuine relationships. You want to make sure to ask some open-ended discovery questions and take notes on that individual, right? Things that I'm thinking about, and I actually physically like to have a pen and pad, right? But if not, you got to make sure you have a good memory. I'm listening for things like their family situation, maybe it's their kids' names, things they like to do, what do they do for work? And then we start to get into the fitness specific things, right? So what things have they struggled with in the past? What have been their biggest obstacles or barriers to success? What brought them in your door today, right? That's going to be essential. So starting that conversation with a new member or a new potential PT lead or client, that's where I like to start. Now, once I've got that framework and I've got some information, my gears are turning. So I'm not going to waste my time showing this individual that only wants to do cardio and the sauna. I'm not going to waste my time showing him these, brand new machines and plate loaded equipment and supplements, because that's not what he's here for. So you got to listen, kind of tailor, customize your messaging to that individual. Think back to those hierarchy of needs and try to ID which of those four personas that you're dealing with. And now we've identified the hot buttons. Now we're going to push those hot buttons and try to offer a solution specific to the individual. Question number 2, how do you keep your clients and members motivated and engaged? Let's think back to those identifying the four personas. Once we understand the personas and once we understand where their biggest obstacles and where they're struggling at, now we can start to find different ways to keep these individuals motivated and engaged. Now, the best thing you can possibly do is outreach, right? It's the follow-up. So again, if you're selling supplements, if you were trying to push people into the gym and get them signed up, not everyone is accustomed to having really good service. In fact, I think the service industry in general struggles today. So when you can come back with exceptional service, maybe they popped in, they did a tour and you haven't heard from them, right? You did a PT consult and you haven't heard from them for a couple of weeks. Reach out to them, right? So that's one way to get them back into the club, get them motivated, and maybe you offer some free value. Maybe you've got some group fitness classes and you're trying to encourage your older members to get into the gym 3 times a week. Maybe you add some group fitness classes around their hot times and start to get them in, right? But the more touch points you have, maybe it's an in-body scan and you can offer that up to get them into your club, into your facility, get that face time, the more successful you're going to be with that individual, right? They're going to stay a bit more motivated. Other things you can do are utilize those transformation contests, rewards programs, right? Maybe if you scan in and you get a minimum of 12 workouts this month, there's some sort of recognition or reward that maybe it's a free shaker bottle, free PT session. All these things help. And definitely I like to push the volume because it's an accountability and a commitment. So if you can push volume on your PT sales, that's definitely going to go a long way. Instead of selling one session, maybe you do a discounted package for 3, 5, or 10 sessions. And now they feel obligated to come because they've got some skin in the game. What's going to happen when they do 10 PT sessions with you instead of 1? Well, they're going to get a better result, right? So maybe you help them out, add a little value, help them out with a little nutrition support. You tell them, what kind of micronutrients and supplementation might help them achieve their goal faster. And now you start to build this relationship and this snowball effect. So keep them motivated, challenge them, get really hyper customized on their goal setting, measure your pace against progress. What gets measured gets done. Question number 3, what if I don't have access to an in-body or a DEXA scan? There's a few different options that I've utilized in the past in my professional career. For one, if you're really interested in the in-bodies, you can always go to InBody USA and look up the in-body locator, type in the zip code, and 9 times out of 10, there's going to be one within 15 to 20 minutes of that location. If you happen to be somewhere very remote and that's not an option, you can go old school, right? You can do the caliper pinch test. Obviously not anywhere near as accurate as something like a DEXA or an in-body or underwater weighing. However, good enough to get a directional trend, right? So the precision is what's low, but if you're measuring it the same way, the same points each time, and you've got a spring-loaded caliper instead of a manual, especially steel instead of plastic, right? It's a little bit more consistent. Over time, let's say we track it twice a week for the next 4 weeks. It's going to give you 8 data points. Directionally, we're going to see the trend. Is their percent body fat trending down? Is their body weight trending up or down over this period of time? And so on. So you can go old school if you have to. Don't be afraid to use those methodologies if you don't have access to something like an in-body scanner. Last question I had come in was number 4 here. What if we don't sell physical supplements in our gym? Okay, so when you're trying to grow horizontally, right, you're trying to do this horizontal scalability, and maybe you don't have access to the InBody. We just covered that. You could charge for that consult. I would probably throw it in free. And now we're on to supplements. Maybe you don't offer supplements today, or you don't have a partner that can do wholesale retail distribution through your club. Well, now you can look at doing different things, right? One of those being e-commerce, and you could be an athlete affiliate for a particular supplement company. There's a lot of companies that do work online where they drop ship directly to your customers if you don't want to do retail where you hold the inventory. And you could look to partner with them, right? Try to negotiate a anywhere from 10 to 25% discount is pretty common, and you would get, some commissions off of that as well. So everyone eats, right? Everyone wins. The consumer, your clients are going to get a better result. Maybe you get them special pricing. You're going to make a little commission, and then the brand, the supplement company or the meal prep company or whatever service that you're partnering with would also obviously make some additional revenues and profit. So everyone wins, everyone eats, and it's a good way that you can still offer this resource kind of in-house, we'll call it, but without having to carry the inventory if you lack the space, or maybe you're just starting out and you don't want the investment of managing inventory and staff and these kind of things. That's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate everyone that's tuned in. If you need to contact me, you can reach me on Instagram at AndreAdams_official, or by email at trainingbydre@gmail.com. Thank you again. I look forward to hopping back on this FBA webinar soon and sharing some more insights for you.